Who do you think is to blame for this loss?
Yeah, and I think I'm going to ultimately put this on Shanahan. And the reason
Yeah.
for that, early in the game, there was a lot of penalties. There was, just the play calling didn't seem to be effective. Um, and I've talked about this over the last 2 years with you, Jesse. Like the the 49ers struggle to play, like to start the game fast. When
Yeah.
they're pretty dominant when they could score on their first time down or within their first two drives. And in this game, they weren't. It took them a long time to score. So to me, you got to put that on Kyle Shanahan. I mean, I don't understand why you throw three downs on an opening drive when you have Mason, who just seems to churn out 5-6 yards every single time you give him the ball. I think that he got too cute in this game, and I think it affected. So I'm going to put it on Kyle Shanahan. I mean, obviously, I still think they were in position to win, and there was some lack of execution. But yeah, I think they should have been way more prepared for this game. And you can't let Minnesota defense, be able to be as effective against this All Pro on every level offense, and they were. So I put that on Shanahan.
Yeah, I mean the offense as a whole just wasn't great. I mean, this was my concern coming into this is you have Flores on the other side, who's a very, very good defensive coordinator. I talked about him so much throughout the week and how impressive he is to me. And they actually went and got some more players this offseason to make that defense even better. And last year they gave the 49ers major issues then without, I mean, a bunch of no-name players and Danielle Hunter, basically, and old Harrison Smith. So then you add some talent to this defense. You give him that talent and allow him to go crazy. I mean, he gives the 49ers fits. I mean, Brock Purdy turned the ball over twice last year in this game. Everybody was like, oh, it's the concussion. Well, he turned it over again twice today, had a couple more that easily could have been intercepted. It just wasn't a great game overall by the offense. And so one has to wonder, you know, you can say Kyle Shanahan, we can go offensive line, you can say Purdy. I think that there's a lot of ways we can go with this. But the question I have is this finally? Because I'm watching the Jets. They're not looking good again today against the Tennessee Titans. Maybe they're just not a very good team whatsoever. The defense has given up some big plays to Will Levis and Calvin Ridley. So maybe, just maybe, the Jets defense, the thought was, oh, this is a formidable, really good defense because they were good last year. And the assumption is they'll just stay good. Well, maybe they just played their first real good defense, and this is the CMC effect. Is that a possibility?
No, because Jesse, they moved the ball. Like this wasn't a case where this team couldn't move the ball down the field. They had long drives. They just didn't execute. Look, what is an issue, and maybe if this is a CMC thing, their red zone offense isn't as good as it was last season.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They're not scoring as many touchdowns as they did last season. Is that a lack of CMC because Jordan Mason isn't as effective in the backfield, maybe catching the ball as CMC is? Or he still doesn't have the respect of the opposing defenses when he's coming out of the backfield? Is that a Brandon Ayuk still isn't 100% and he's not running routes the way he should? Is it Kyle Shanahan is not calling the right plays? Is it Brock Purdy is taking too many? It could be a lot of things. I don't know if we could pinpoint it on, hey, CMC being lost is why this offense looks this way, because I think Jordan Mason has done plenty to give this offense to not miss CMC as much as far as a rushing attack. Ultimately, Brock, I don't think CMC changes Brock Purdy's decision making, right? He's throwing.
I think it does. I think this is where I think it might come in potentially. But keep going.
Well, what I mean by that is like him making the risky throws there, because I know you're going to do the all 22 and you'll be able to answer this better
For sure.
During the week. But in all of those, in a lot of those plays, there was guys wide open that Brock Purdy just threw it into, 3 men coverage and whatnot, instead of taking the check down that would have gotten, a easy completion and maybe not, as much yardage. And I think that hero ball is what I'm talking about. Maybe if CMC is there, he feels more confident to check that ball. But maybe because CMC is not there, he feels confident. He feels like, hey, I could do this now, type of thing. I don't know. But maybe that to that. But I still think there's a lot of open plays. I still think Brock Purdy made some bad decisions.
No, I don't disagree with that. I think that there were plays to be made, and if for some reason he just wasn't seeing the field well, was holding on to the ball. There was a sack. I think it was on the second to last drive. They ended up scoring, but there was a sack on that drive where Debo was wide open, right over the middle, and he was looking right at him, and he just sat there and didn't make a decision, which is odd for him, and took a sack. But I guess that the reason why I think it could be a CMC effect, and we'll see how it goes going forward. I'm not sure how it's going to play out, but and truth be told, these were all the reason I was cool with CMC going out is I felt like all 4 of these games were beyond winnable. So I'm like, all right, cool. They'll start 5-0 anyways. Doesn't really matter. Like I'm the guy that said CMC's one of the more important pieces and went toe to toe with Grant and Coach about it. But even I was like, hey, without CMC, these 4 games, these are the perfect games. Just get in, get out, get your wins, and then hopefully CMC comes back. But I can't help but to think, and it's a small sample size, so I don't know for sure, but I can't help but to think how much more comfortable Jimmy G looked for a 5-game stretch when CMC was here. Remember, he had never gone more than 2 games without a turnover, and he went 4 straight games without a turnover when CMC was here. I think he had 1 turnover in 5 games with CMC, including 4 straight without it. And I'm like, God, I mean, that jitteriness in the pocket, the way that he played almost completely changed with CMC. But it was a 5-game sample, and then he was gone. Well, Purdy, we've basically seen him with CMC. We've seen him without some other players, but CMC being that constant check down, I think helps a quarterback so they don't have to speed up their processing. I felt like there were multiple times today. And again, the All-22 will tell us the truth. We'll watch that. Hopefully tomorrow we have some time, guys, but we'll watch it. But the way that I saw it is, man, he was speeding up his clock when he didn't need to. There were multiple times where I felt like guys were open and he would either look the other way really quick. He was just kind of panicking. When CMC's there and he has that constant check down option, it's like, it doesn't matter. I can go through these reads, and if things get tight, I know I can just dump it off to CMC and be protected. And I felt like him not being there today was a big impact on this offense. And also Kyle Shanahan and his play calling, we know he loves CMC, right? So it could have affected his game calling too.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think the checkdowns were there on numerous times. He just didn't take it. I wonder, Jesse, because we're saying the CMC thing and all this kind of stuff. The one thing that maybe is an elephant in the room and we don't talk about it because of Brock Purdy's personality, this is a contract year for him. And the talk and the narrative around Brock Purdy is he's Brock Purdy because of his weapons. Is Brock Purdy hearing that and saying, hey, I got to show that I can lead this team and I could win with this team to get the contract that I want? I think people are looking at Brock Purdy and like, hey, he's not this type of guy that wants the biggest contract or cares about that type of stuff, but he is human. He has been making the least amount of money out of pretty much every single quarterback that's in the league right now. To me, it looked like more hero ball. I don't know. It'll be interesting to see when and if CMC comes back, if that changes. But to me, Juszczyk is still back there. He's a great check down option. Mason is there. He's a check down option. So to me, maybe they haven't been proven as much as CMC as a check down option. But if it's just about the check down, it's there, Jesse. He's just not throwing it there. So to me,
I just think his clock is speeding up, though, is what I'm saying. I think just knowing that CMC is not out there, I think it just is making him go. And again, I could be wrong. It's one game. Who knows? I just felt like today he was in panic mode more than I've ever seen him. I feel like one of the things I should say that I think Brock does really, really well is stay extremely calm when things seem to be chaotic. I feel like when the chaos happens, he plays really, really calm. Now, Mason, a lot of people are going to say, well, Mason played really well. So how can you say you're missing CMC that much? It's not about Mason. Like, Mason's going to do his thing running the ball. He's a very, very good player as well. It's, to me, more in the pass game, especially because you got receivers right now that aren't getting the most separation like they would normally, especially, Ayuk, because he's just not in shape or whatever's going on. But I feel like CMC opens things up for the receivers because there's so much focus on him. And I really think on 3rd and 4th downs, you saw it most. Brock Purdy panicked more than I've ever seen him. And Kyle Shanahan just wasn't in his bag. I just feel like all three of those things you can attribute to, man, if CMC was there in the pass game, I feel like that game goes completely different.